Close your eyes. The past is about to speak. When you imagine ancient China, perhaps your mind conjures images of majestic emperors adorned in robes of shimmering silk, their courts filled with elegant scholars, and vast caravans laden with precious textiles winding their way along the legendary Silk Road. You might picture a world of opulent beauty, where this luxurious fabric, soft to the touch and gleaming with an inner light, flowed freely, a symbol of immense wealth and power. It's a romantic, almost ethereal vision, isn't it? A Hollywood-esque scene of timeless elegance and exotic mystery. But for the average person, the reality of that luxurious fabric was far from romantic. It was a story woven not with dreams, but with an almost unimaginable level of secret keeping, back-breaking labor, and meticulous, monotonous work performed in humid, often cramped spaces. The air would be thick with the musky scent of silkworms, the dampness clinging to your clothes, and the constant, soft rustle of countless tiny mouths chewing. There was no grand, airy workshop. Your home might be your factory. You probably wouldn't last a day trying to keep this secret, let alone produce the fabric that draped kings and queens. It's a level of dedication and disciplined monotony that defies our modern sensibilities. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you drift, consider where you are right now, perhaps nestled in your quiet bedroom, the time ticking by in the digital silence. Feel free to share your location and local time in the comments if you like. But for now, let your mind slip back in time to an age when the softest touch of fabric could conceal the harshest of secrets. Tonight, we delve into the closely guarded, almost unbelievably secretive world of ancient Chinese silk production. Imagine a secret so valuable, so central to an entire empire's wealth and dominance, that its revelation could cost you your life. For thousands of years, the process of cultivating silkworms and transforming their fragile cocoons into threads of gold remained a mystery to the rest of the world, a closely guarded secret protected by the most severe of penalties. This wasn't just an industry. It was a state secret, a national treasure, a source of power that shaped trade routes, influenced diplomacy, and defined an entire civilization. The story begins not with a grand discovery in a bustling city, but in the quiet, humid countryside, amidst the rustling leaves of the humble mulberry tree. You are there, living under the ever-present shadow of this enormous secret. The air around you is often still and heavy, carrying the subtle, earthy scent of damp soil and the sweet, almost cloying aroma of mulberry leaves. In the distance, you might hear the faint, rhythmic sound of a wooden loom, a steady, hypnotic pulse that hints at the finished product, but gives no clue to the intricate journey that brought it into being. You understand, implicitly, that what you are about to witness, what you are about to participate in, is a knowledge forbidden to outsiders. The very thought of sharing it sends a shiver down your spine, a cold sensation that reminds you of the swift and brutal justice that awaits any who betray this sacred trust. This level of secrecy wasn't merely about economic advantage. It was about national identity, about maintaining a mystique that awestruck foreign dignitaries and traders alike. You don't have global supply chains or open-source knowledge in this era. Imagine trying to keep a multi-billion-dollar industry secret in today's world with the internet. You'd be on social media, probably TikTok, demonstrating the process by lunchtime, wouldn't you? But in ancient China, the consequences for such a breach were absolute. The punishment for revealing the secrets of sericulture, the raising of silkworms, or for smuggling silkworm eggs or mulberry seeds out of the empire was often death. Sometimes it was a slow, agonizing process. The fear of this fate was a constant, unspoken companion, a silent agreement among all who knew the truth of silk. This constant, quiet pressure meant that everyone involved, from the humblest peasant nurturing the silkworms to the highest official overseeing the trade, was bound by an invisible, yet ironclad oath. So, how did they manage this incredible feat of secrecy for so long? By making the process utterly mundane, deeply embedded in household routines, and by ensuring that no single individual knew every step from beginning to end, or if they did, that they were bound by fear and loyalty. The true art of making silk was never written down for public consumption. It was passed from generation to generation, whispered from mother to daughter, from father to son, through endless hours of painstaking, repetitive work. It was a lived knowledge, ingrained in the very muscle memory of the people. This wasn't something you learned from a book, it was something you became. The luxurious fabrics that traveled westward along the Silk Road were the envy of empires, draped over Roman senators and Persian kings. But the people who wore them, those who admired their sheen and softness, had no idea of the quiet, almost invisible labor that went into their creation. They couldn't conceive of the tiny, blind worms, the endless chewing, the precise environmental controls, or the sheer, monotonous patience required. They only saw the finished product, divorced from its messy, insect-driven origins. It's a bit like admiring a magnificent skyscraper without ever considering the thousands of hours of blueprint revisions, concrete pouring, and rivet hammering. The illusion of effortless beauty was maintained at every turn. Historians still debate the exact earliest date of silk cultivation, while popular legend attributes its discovery to Empress Lizu, the wife of the Yellow Emperor, around 2700 BC. Archaeological evidence suggests silk production might be even older, hinting at its presence as far back as 5000 BC. Regardless of the precise start, what is clear is that this knowledge was meticulously refined and rigorously guarded for millennia. The ingenuity of these ancient people, their ability to observe nature, understand complex biological cycles, and then manipulate them for their benefit, is truly remarkable. Despite the simplicity of their tools, their understanding of sericulture was incredibly sophisticated. They understood the life cycle of an insect with an almost scientific precision that allowed them to harness its natural instinct for their own gain. Your journey into this secret world begins not with the shimmering fabric, but with the very breath of life that sustains the silkworm, the mulberry tree. Without it, there is no silk, no secret, no empire built on soft threads. The silent work, the patient waiting, the constant observation, it all starts here, under the gentle shade of these vital trees. You feel the subtle shifts in the wind, the texture of the leaves, understanding that your livelihood, your entire world, depends on the health and abundance of these quiet giants. Your daily rhythm is dictated by their growth, by their cycles of budding and fruiting. There is no escape from this intimate connection with the natural world, no modern convenience to detach you from the source of your existence. You live and breathe with the mulberry. Your world is intimately tied to the land, and specifically to the mulberry tree. You wake with the sun, the faint, sweet scent of distant blossoms or the earthy dampness of morning, dew clinging to the air around your small dwelling. There's no snooze button here, no leisurely scroll through a glowing screen. Your alarm is the rising sun and the urgent, unspoken needs of the ecosystem you tend. The cultivation of the mulberry tree, specifically the white mulberry Morus alba, is not merely farming. It is the first, most fundamental step in the long, secretive dance of silk production. Without an abundant, healthy supply of these leaves, the entire process grinds to a halt. It's the very first link in an unbroken chain of meticulous, monotonous tasks. You understand that the quality and quantity of the mulberry leaves directly impact the health of the silkworms, and consequently, the quality and yield of the silk. This isn't a factory farm where you can simply dial up the nutrients. It's a living, breathing, photosynthesizing organism that demands your attention, your patience, and your constant care. The soil must be just right, well drained, fertile, and carefully managed. You spend countless hours preparing the ground, turning it over by hand, feeling the rich earth crumble between your fingers, sometimes gritty with tiny stones, sometimes smooth and loamy. Your muscles ache from the repetitive motions, a dull throb that becomes a familiar companion. There are no tractors, no advanced fertilizers, just human ingenuity and perseverance. Planting new trees is an act of profound foresight. You aren't planting for tomorrow or even next year. You are planting for generations, for a future harvest that may feed silkworms belonging to your children or grandchildren. Cuttings are taken from mature, healthy trees, carefully nurtured until they develop roots, then transplanted with the utmost care. You feel the tender rootlets as you place them into the prepared soil, tamping the earth gently around them, a silent prayer for their growth passing through your mind. It's a slow, quiet process, devoid of immediate gratification. You have no instant coffee in this world, and certainly no instant mulberry trees. The daily care of these trees is relentless. You are constantly weeding, stooping low to pull persistent, unwelcome plants that compete for precious nutrients and water. The sun beats down on your back, or the cold wind bites at your exposed skin, yet you continue. The sounds are minimal, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the distant call of a bird, perhaps the steady rhythm of your own breathing. Sometimes, the only sound is the quiet scratching of your hoe against the earth. You monitor for pests and diseases with an eagle eye, understanding that even a small infestation could devastate a year's worth of feed. There are no chemical pesticides, no quick fixes. You might use natural concoctions, perhaps a solution of ash and water, or simply pluck off unwanted insects by hand, feeling their tiny bodies beneath your calloused fingers. Watering is crucial, especially during dry spells. You might carry heavy buckets of water from a nearby well or stream, feeling the strain in your shoulders, the water sloshing against your legs. The smell of fresh water mingling with the damp earth is a constant presence. Some historians speculate about the exact irrigation techniques used in various regions, but what is undeniable is the sheer effort involved in keeping these trees hydrated. It's not a matter of turning on a tap. Each bucket, each trip, is an investment of your precious energy. One quirky tidbit you learn early on is that not all mulberry leaves are created equal for the discerning palate of the silkworm. While they can technically eat other types of mulberry leaves, the white mulberry is overwhelmingly preferred, and its leaves are believed to produce the finest silk. It's a bit like a gourmet chef insisting on a specific variety of truffle. The silkworms, in their own silent way, are connoisseurs. You also learn that the leaves must be of a certain age and freshness. Too young, and they lack the necessary nutrients. Too old, and they become tough and unpalatable. This means you must manage your groves carefully, ensuring a staggered supply of tender, green leaves ready for harvest throughout the feeding season. It's a sophisticated agricultural cycle that requires constant attention. The sheer volume of leaves required is staggering. A single silkworm, over its short lifetime, will consume an enormous amount of mulberry leaf, many times its own body weight. Multiply that by the millions, even billions of silkworms needed to produce enough silk for a single robe, and you begin to grasp the scale of the operation. You are effectively managing vast, living food factories, ensuring that the endless, tiny mouths of the silkworms are never without their preferred meal. It's a bit like trying to keep a herd of miniature, extremely picky cattle fed, except these cattle are voracious, grow at an astonishing rate, and are absolutely vital to your livelihood. There's no complaining, no, are we there yet, from the silkworms. Just continuous rhythmic munching. The harvest of the leaves themselves is a time-consuming, labor-intensive affair. You pick them by hand, leaf by leaf, or perhaps small branches, carefully avoiding damage to the tree. The texture of the fresh mulberry leaf is soft, almost velvety on its underside, with a slightly rougher upper surface. You can sometimes feel the sticky sap as you pull them from the branch. This is not a task for the impatient. You cannot simply strip the branches bare. You must leave enough for the tree's health and future growth. Each leaf picked is a future thread of silk, a silent promise of prosperity, a small step towards the shimmering fabric that will eventually adorn the powerful and the privileged. You gather the leaves into large baskets, feeling their surprising weight as you carry them back to your home or the designated rearing room. The air here, in the vicinity of the harvested leaves, often carries a faint, grassy scent, a prelude to the more distinct, musky aroma that will soon fill your home when the silkworms arrive. There's a constant sense of quiet anticipation, a knowledge that these humble leaves hold the potential for immense value, a secret locked within their very cellular structure. This constant, demanding work in the mulberry groves cultivates not just trees, but patience and an intimate understanding of nature's rhythms. You learn to read the subtle signs of the seasons, the health of the leaves, the coming rain. Your life is an unbroken cycle of observation, labor, and anticipation. This dedication, this almost symbiotic relationship with the mulberry tree, is a testament to the remarkable human resilience and adaptability that characterized ancient Chinese society. They didn't just survive, they thrived, building an entire industry on the back of an insect's appetite and a tree's leaves. And they kept that knowledge a secret for centuries through sheer, unwavering discipline. The focus of your meticulous care shifts from the deep roots of the mulberry trees to something almost infinitesimally small: the silkworm eggs. You've prepared for this moment for weeks, ensuring the temperature and humidity in your rearing room, perhaps a corner of your modest home or a specially constructed outbuilding, are just so. The air is still and a little warm, carrying the faint, sweet scent of the freshly gathered mulberry leaves you've laid out in anticipation. There are no fancy thermostats or humidifiers, of course. You rely on instinct, passed down knowledge, and the subtle cues of the environment. A small brazier might provide warmth, its embers glowing softly in the dim light, while damp cloths or bowls of water manage the moisture in the air. The silkworm eggs are tiny, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, resembling fine mustard seeds or specks of dust. You arrange them carefully on a clean surface, perhaps a thin sheet of paper or a bamboo mat, spread thinly to ensure even hatching. The waiting is a quiet, internal process. You check them frequently, your breath held, watching for the first signs of life. The very fragility of these eggs, their vulnerability to temperature fluctuations or sudden drafts, instills a deep sense of responsibility. Losing an entire batch could mean a year of wasted effort, and more importantly, a year without the vital income silk provides. There's no insurance policy here, no government subsidy for crop failure. You are entirely at the mercy of these delicate lives. Then, one morning, perhaps after a night of restless sleep filled with anxious anticipation, you notice the first change. The eggs, which were once a uniform, pale gray or yellowish color, begin to darken. Tiny, almost invisible pinpricks of life appear. These are the newly hatched silkworms, often referred to as ants due to their minuscule size and dark coloration. They are so small, so incredibly delicate, that you must strain your eyes to truly see them, perhaps holding a finely woven bamboo screen over them to magnify their presence slightly. They move with an almost imperceptible crawl, blind and driven by a singular, overwhelming instinct: hunger. The moment they hatch, these tiny creatures need food immediately. You carefully, delicately, spread a layer of finely chopped, fresh mulberry leaves over the hatching mat. The leaves are soft, almost velvety, and you've cut them into minuscule pieces, understanding that these newborn ants have equally minuscule mouths. The smell of these fresh, chopped leaves is subtly sweet and green, a scent that will become a constant companion for the next few weeks. You watch, utterly mesmerized, as the newly hatched silkworms begin to move towards the leaves, their tiny bodies almost blending in with the green fragments. There is no sound, not yet, only the silent, determined movement of life. This is where the obsessive nature of silk farming truly begins. You must constantly monitor these newborn silkworms. Their hunger is insatiable, and their growth, while slow at first, will soon become astonishingly rapid. You learn to distinguish between a healthy, thriving batch and one that is struggling. The color, the movement, the very way they cluster around the food, all these are subtle indicators that you must interpret with practiced ease. It's a level of micromanagement that would make a modern project manager weep. You cannot simply delegate. Every detail matters. One fascinating historical fact about the silkworm, Bomix mori, is that it is one of the most completely domesticated animals known to humankind. Unlike its wild ancestors, which still exist in some parts of Asia, the domesticated silkworm cannot survive without human intervention. It has lost the ability to fly. Its mouthparts are adapted purely for eating mulberry leaves, and its cocoons are so large and dense that the moth cannot easily chew its way out without damaging the silk filament. This means that from the moment they hatch, these tiny worms are entirely dependent on you, their human caretaker, for survival. You are their sole source of food, warmth, and protection. It's an almost symbiotic relationship, but one where the human holds all the cards, and the silkworm provides the invaluable treasure. This complete domestication speaks volumes about the thousands of years of careful breeding and selection practiced by ancient Chinese sericulturists. They didn't just stumble upon silk. They engineered it slowly, patiently, over countless generations. The challenge of feeding these ants is immense. You must chop fresh leaves several times a day, ensuring they are consistently available and never dry out. Dry leaves are unpalatable and can lead to unhealthy worms. The air in the rearing room must maintain a delicate balance, not too dry, not too damp. Too much humidity can lead to mold and disease, which can sweep through an entire batch of worms with devastating speed. You learn to feel the air, to sense the subtle changes in temperature and moisture, adjusting the ventilation or the heat source accordingly. It's an art form born of necessity, a constant negotiation with the elements. You might find yourself humming a quiet tune as you work, the only sound breaking the silence of the room as you meticulously spread the chopped leaves. The young worms are so small they can easily be crushed, so every movement must be precise, deliberate. You are constantly clearing away their tiny droppings, known as frass, which accumulate quickly and can promote disease if not removed. This daily cleaning is tedious but absolutely essential. The smell of the frass is distinct, a faint, earthy, slightly sweet odor that will intensify as the worms grow. It's not an unpleasant smell, but it is constant, a subtle reminder of the living, breathing, eating mass that is your livelihood. The constant, low-level stress of keeping these creatures alive is a silent companion. There's no easy way to quantify their health in the early stages, no simple diagnostic tools. You learn through observation, through the wisdom of those who came before you. If the worms are sluggish or their color seems off, you know something is amiss. You might try adjusting the temperature, changing the source of the leaves, or simply praying for them to recover. Your prosperity is directly tied to the health of these vulnerable worms, a realization that brings a unique form of pressure. Imagine a modern farmer, without any pesticides or advanced veterinary care, watching over a crop that could vanish overnight. That's your reality. Historians and entomologists continue to study the optimal conditions for sericulture in ancient China, often drawing parallels with modern, climate-controlled facilities. However, we can only speculate about the true precision with which ancient farmers managed these environmental factors without the benefit of scientific instruments. What is clear is that their empirical knowledge, gathered over thousands of years of trial and error, was incredibly sophisticated. They understood the subtle interplay of temperature, humidity, and diet long before these concepts were formally defined by science. Their resilience lay in their ability to adapt, to observe, and to pass down this invaluable practical wisdom. As the days turn into a week, you begin to see a noticeable change. The ants are no longer just specks. They are growing, shedding their skin, entering their next stage of life. Their consumption of leaves begins to increase exponentially, and a very faint, almost imperceptible rustling sound begins to fill the air. The sound of countless tiny mouths, munching, munching, munching. This soft, continuous rustle is the first true sound of silk production, a subtle promise of the bounty to come, yet also a clear indication of the immense amount of work that lies ahead. It's the sound of relentless, quiet consumption, a rhythm that will soon dominate your days and nights. You realize with a weary sigh that the true feast is just beginning. The soft, almost ethereal rustling that began subtly in the previous stage now swells to a constant, undeniable murmur in your rearing room. This is the sound of the great worm feast, the period when the silkworms, now significantly larger and more vigorous, enter a phase of truly voracious, relentless consumption of mulberry leaves. You are surrounded by millions of tiny, living eating machines, their bodies growing visibly by the hour. The air is thick with the sweet green scent of freshly chewed mulberry leaves, mingling with the unique, earthy smell of the silkworms themselves and their accumulating frass, their droppings. It's a smell that becomes utterly pervasive, a constant, low-level sensory immersion that defines this stage of the work. You smell it on your clothes, in your hair, and it permeates the very fabric of your home. This stage is perhaps the most demanding in terms of sheer labor. The silkworms eat almost continuously, pausing only to molt or shed their skin as they grow. They go through 4 molts known as sleeps, each time emerging larger and even hungrier. During these sleeps, they become still and stop eating, a brief respite for you before their appetite returns with renewed ferocity. You must recognize these periods and adjust feeding accordingly, ensuring fresh leaves are ready for their awakening. It's like tending to a room full of perpetually hungry infants, except these infants are covered in tiny bristles and grow at an alarming rate. And unlike human infants, there's no crying, just the relentless, soft sound of munching. You are constantly bringing in fresh mulberry leaves. This means daily trips to the groves, sometimes multiple times a day, carrying heavy baskets back to the rearing room. Your arms and shoulders ache from the repetitive strain, the constant bending and lifting. The leaves must be clean and dry. Any moisture can lead to mold, which is deadly to the silkworms. You meticulously spread the leaves over the silkworm beds, which might be large, shallow bamboo trays stacked in rows. allowing for air circulation and easy access for the worms. As the worms grow, you expand their living space, adding more trays or spreading them out to prevent overcrowding, which can also lead to disease. The logistics of managing this growing army of worms, ensuring they have enough space and food, are incredibly complex without modern tools. One mainstream historical fact is that the temperature and humidity must be carefully regulated throughout this feeding period. Too cold and the worms become sluggish and stop eating. Too hot and they can sicken and die. Ancient Chinese sericulturists understood this implicitly. You might see them strategically opening and closing windows or vents, fanning the air, or even using water on the floor to increase humidity. It's a constant dance with the elements, a subtle calibration that relies on generations of empirical knowledge. You can't just set a number on a dial. You must feel the air, sense the changes, and react with intuitive precision. There's no thermostat to argue over, no automated climate control. The sound is truly remarkable. It's not a loud sound, but it is persistent, a continuous, rustling hum of millions of tiny jaws chewing, chewing, chewing. If you close your eyes, you can almost visualize the movement, the relentless motion of countless small bodies consuming their way to metamorphosis. This constant auditory backdrop becomes part of your existence, a rhythm to your days and nights. Sometimes you might even find it soothing, a bizarre lullaby that signifies productivity and the promise of future prosperity. Other times, it's just a relentless, unyielding reminder of the endless work. Cleaning the silkworm beds is another demanding task. As the worms eat, they produce a vast amount of frass. This must be regularly removed to maintain sanitation and prevent the spread of disease. You use special tools, perhaps a sieve-like screen or a small brush, to gently separate the worms and uneaten leaf fragments from the accumulating waste. The smell of the frass intensifies, becoming a rich, compost-like aroma, mixed with the ever-present scent of mulberry. It's a dirty, repetitive job, but absolutely critical for the health of your precious worms. There's no escaping the mess, no magic vacuum cleaner to whisk it away. A quirky tidbit is how much their color changes throughout this stage. Initially dark, almost black, they lighten with each molt, becoming progressively paler, almost a creamy white, as they store up the silk-producing fluid within their bodies. Their skin becomes taut and translucent, a sign that they are nearing the end of their eating phase. You observe these changes with a practiced eye, knowing that they indicate the worms are progressing correctly. It's a visual confirmation of your efforts, a silent signal that they are nearing the critical cocooning stage. Relatable pain points for you include the constant vigilance required. You can't leave them unattended for long. A sudden drop in temperature, a patch of mold, or an unexpected pest could wipe out your entire crop. Sleep is often fragmented, broken by the need to check on the worms, to add more leaves, or to adjust the environment. There's no concept of a 9-to-5 workday. Your work is your life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the entire duration of the silkworm's feeding cycle. It's a relentless demand on your physical and mental energy. There's no vacation planned after this, no weekend getaway. just the next cycle. Scholarly context often discusses the development of specialized buildings and techniques for sericulture, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of bioconversion and environmental control. For instance, the use of raised platforms and bamboo trays allowed for better air circulation and easier cleaning, preventing diseases that thrive in damp, stagnant conditions. We can only speculate about the precise empirical data they collected and passed down, but the consistency of their methods across vast geographical regions suggests a highly refined system of knowledge. The fact that the process remained largely unchanged for millennia speaks to its efficacy. Despite the physical exhaustion and the mental strain, there is a profound sense of satisfaction that comes from seeing your worms thrive. You watch them grow, their bodies plump and full, their movements strong and purposeful. You are participating in an ancient alchemy, transforming humble leaves into something extraordinary, something coveted across vast distances. The resilience of the human spirit, especially when faced with such demanding, repetitive labor, is truly remarkable. Your ability to endure, to adapt, to master the nuances of this tiny creature's life cycle is a testament to the ingenuity and perseverance of your ancestors. You are part of a secret legacy, a guardian of knowledge that will bring immense wealth and influence to your people for centuries to come. The silent, rhythmic munching of the silkworms is not just a sound of labor, but a subtle hum of future prosperity. The ceaseless munching has begun to slow, the collective hum of countless tiny jaws gradually subsiding. You notice a change in the silkworms. They are no longer voraciously attacking the mulberry leaves you offer. Instead, their bodies, now swollen and creamy white, become somewhat translucent. They appear restless, lifting their heads, searching, almost as if they are looking for something. This is the unmistakable signal. They are preparing to spin their cocoons. The great worm feast has ended, and the next, equally miraculous stage is about to begin. The air, though still carrying the faint, earthy scent of silkworm and frass, now has a subtly different feel, a quiet anticipation. This transition period is critical. The silkworms are looking for a suitable place to begin their transformation. You've prepared for this by constructing spinning frames or mountages, structures made of straw, twigs, or coiled bamboo that provide individual nooks and crannies for each silkworm to attach itself and begin spinning. You gently transfer the mature worms from their feeding trays to these frames, carefully, meticulously. Their bodies feel firm and full, almost ready to burst with the liquid silk they contain. You can sense their urgency, their instinctive drive to find a secure spot. Once settled, the silkworm begins its incredible work. It first attaches itself to the frame with a few strands of silk, creating a basic hammock or scaffold. Then it begins to extrude a continuous fine filament of liquid silk from two glands in its mouth. This liquid, a protein called fibrin, is coated with a sticky, gummy substance called sericin. As the worm slowly moves its head in a figure-eight motion, approximately 300,000 times over several days, the liquid silk hardens upon contact with the air. It's an astonishing feat of natural engineering, a silent, continuous outpouring of biological material transformed into a shimmering thread. You observe this process with a mix of awe and practiced patience. There's no sound of spinning, no whirring machinery, just the slow, steady movement of each individual worm building its protective shell. The speed of the process feels agonizingly slow to your human perception, yet the output is incredible. A single cocoon can contain a continuous silk filament, often measuring between 1,000 and 1,500 meters in length, sometimes even longer. That's roughly the length of 10 to 15 football fields, all from one tiny worm. Imagine unwinding that by hand. This fact alone makes the silk truly astonishing. A quirky tidbit that might surprise you: the color of the cocoon isn't always the pristine white you might expect. While most domesticated silkworms produce white or pale yellow cocoons, wild silkworms, and even some domesticated varieties, can produce cocoons of various colors, including green, pink, or even dark brown, depending on their diet and genetics. However, for ease of dyeing, the ancient Chinese highly prized the white or pale yellow cocoons, as they absorbed dyes more evenly and produced brighter colors. So, while you might occasionally see an odd-colored cocoon, you primarily strive for those pure, pale ones. The temperature and humidity of the spinning room remain crucial. If it's too dry, the saracen can dry out too quickly, making the silk brittle and difficult to unwind later. If it's too humid, mold can grow on the cocoons. You continue to monitor the environment, making subtle adjustments to ensure optimal conditions for the worms to complete their work. The air now carries a faint, almost metallic smell, mixed with the lingering sweetness of the mulberry, as the saracen solidifies around the forming cocoons. Relatable pain points here include the sheer waiting. You've done all the hard work of feeding, cleaning, and monitoring, and now you must wait for the worms to complete their final, independent task. There's nothing more you can do but ensure the conditions are right and allow nature to take its course. This period can feel incredibly tense, knowing that the culmination of weeks of labor rests on the successful completion of each individual cocoon. It's a test of patience, a challenge to your desire for immediate results. You cannot rush nature. Scholarly context often highlights the ingenious design of the spinning frames, which facilitated the collection of cocoons and prevented the worms from forming irregular or double cocoons, where two worms spin together, making the filament difficult to unwind. These simple, natural structures demonstrate a profound understanding of the silkworm's biology and behavior, allowing ancient sericulturists to optimize the quality and quantity of silk produced. Their methods were remarkably efficient, considering the lack of advanced scientific instruments. After about 3 to 5 days, the spinning is complete. Each cocoon is a perfect, ovoid shape, tightly woven and firm to the touch. Inside, the silkworm, having expended all its energy and transformed its body, is now in its pupal stage, awaiting metamorphosis into a moth. You can feel the slight weight of each cocoon as you gently inspect them, a silent testament to the tireless work of the tiny creature within. The quiet of the room is now profound, broken only by your own breathing and the occasional rustle as you move among the frames. The frantic, hungry energy of the previous stage has been replaced by a deep, almost meditative stillness. This delicate, precise moment of cocoon formation is perhaps the most magical part of the entire process, where raw, biological material is transformed into a shimmering treasure. It embodies human resilience and ingenuity in harnessing nature's cycles for unparalleled beauty and wealth. You understand, as you carefully handle these fragile cocoons, that you hold in your hands not just the promise of silk, but the very essence of your people's secret, a legacy of patience, observation, and painstaking dedication that has been passed down through generations. These cocoons, seemingly insignificant, are the golden nuggets that will transform into the most coveted fabric in the ancient world. The true value, however, is not just in the shimmering thread, but in the hidden knowledge that created it. The silence in the rearing room is now complete, a stark contrast to the continuous rustle that dominated the previous weeks. The air still holds the ghost of mulberry and the faint, earthy scent of silkworms, but now it's overlaid with a subtle, dry, almost papery aroma emanating from the finished cocoons. Your focus shifts from nurturing life to the careful, selective harvesting of these precious, completed cocoons. This is a moment of quiet assessment, a crucial step that determines the quality of the raw silk you will eventually produce. You begin the process of collection. Each cocoon must be gently detached from its spinning frame. You handle them with extreme care, feeling their surprisingly firm yet lightweight texture between your fingers. They are not merely empty shells. Within each one rests the pupa, the silkworm in its dormant, transformative stage. The goal here is to harvest the cocoons before the pupa inside has a chance to fully metamorphose into a moth and chew its way out. If the moth emerges, it breaks the continuous silk filament, rendering it useless for reeling long, unbroken threads. This is a critical race against nature's clock. As you collect, you perform an initial sorting. Not all cocoons are perfect. You look for cocoons that are uniform in size, firm to the touch, and free from stains or damage. Those that are too small, too thin, or have been spun irregularly are set aside. Sometimes, two silkworms might have spun a single, tangled cocoon, making it impossible to unwind a continuous thread. These are also discarded or set aside for coarser silk varieties. Your trained eye quickly identifies the best specimens, those that promise the longest, most pristine threads. The feeling of a perfectly spun cocoon in your hand is one of quiet satisfaction, a tangible reward for weeks of tireless effort. One mainstream historical fact is the precise timing of this harvest. The cocoons are typically harvested about 8 to 9 days after spinning begins, allowing the pupa sufficient time to fully form, but not enough time to emerge as a moth. This narrow window requires constant vigilance and swift action. You are working against the natural life cycle, interrupting it at a precise moment to preserve the integrity of the silk filament. It's a delicate balance, a testament to the ancient sericulturist's deep understanding of the silkworm's biology. After collection, the cocoons must be stifled, a process that kills the pupa inside without damaging the silk. This is a crucial step to prevent the moth from emerging and breaking the filament. Ancient methods for stifling included exposure to direct sunlight, steaming, or heating in ovens. You might spread the cocoons out on bamboo mats in the scorching sun, feeling the heat radiate from them, or carefully place them in large, shallow baskets over a simmering pot of water, allowing the steam to penetrate. The smell might become slightly sweet and a little acrid as the pupa is killed, a necessary but somber part of the process. This is the moment where the life of the silkworm ends, but the true journey of the silk begins. A quirky tidbit that might make you pause. A small percentage of cocoons are deliberately left to allow the moths to emerge. These are the breeding stock for the next generation of silkworms. These cocoons are typically selected for their superior quality, ensuring that only the strongest, healthiest moths reproduce. You carefully set these aside, recognizing their importance for the continuation of your livelihood. When these moths eventually emerge, they will mate and lay their tiny, dust-like eggs, restarting the entire laborious cycle. This perpetuates the line and maintains the secrets of your people. It's a closed loop, where life is taken to preserve the silk, but also fostered to ensure its future. Relatable pain points for you in this stage include the immense value of each cocoon. Every single one represents hours of labor, from cultivating the mulberry to feeding the worms. Any damaged or unusable cocoon feels like a personal loss, a small piece of your effort wasted. The pressure to perfectly execute this stifling process is immense, as a mistake could ruin an entire batch. There's no undo button here, no second chance if the pupa emerges prematurely. The meticulous nature of the task demands your complete focus, despite the growing fatigue in your bones. Scholarly context often points to the efficiency of these stifling methods, which were perfected over centuries. The ability to preserve cocoons for later reeling allowed for year-round silk production, rather than being confined to the silkworm's natural life cycle. This foresight and planning were essential for developing a large-scale, consistent industry that could supply vast quantities of silk for both domestic use and international trade. We can only imagine the empirical experiments they must have conducted to determine the exact temperatures and durations required for optimal stifling. After stifling, the cocoons are carefully stored. They must be kept dry and protected from pests, ensuring they retain their quality until they are ready for the next stage, reeling. You might place them in large, breathable baskets or on shelves, the light, dry texture of the cocoons filling your hands as you move them. The room, which once buzzed with life, now holds the quiet, almost solemn presence of these valuable, silent containers. Each one holds a treasure, a thread of liquid gold just waiting to be unwound. This harvesting process, from the initial sorting to the final stifling and storage, underscores the sophisticated knowledge and exacting standards of ancient Chinese sericulture. It's a moment where the promise of the silkworm's labor is secured, transformed from a biological marvel into a raw material ready for human hands to shape into luxury. The human resilience required to meticulously manage these countless fragile cocoons, understanding their intricate biology and the demands of their transformation, is a profound testament to your people's dedication. You are not merely collecting. You are safeguarding the essence of a secret, protecting the very foundation of your society's wealth and power, ensuring that the whisper of silk continues for generations. The cocoons, once alive with the promise of transformation, now lie still and dry, their precious secret secured within their delicate walls. The air in your workspace, perhaps a humid corner of your home or a dedicated reeling shed, is now thick with the scent of simmering water and the subtle, slightly sweet aroma of saracen, the natural gum that binds the silk filament. This is the stage of reeling, arguably the most delicate and skill-intensive part of the entire silk production process, where the invisible thread held within each cocoon is painstakingly unwound. You begin by preparing the water. Large basins or pots are filled with water and brought to a specific, carefully maintained temperature. Too hot, and the silk can be damaged. Too cool, and the saracen won't soften sufficiently. You might use wood-fired stoves, constantly monitoring the flames, adding fuel as needed, feeling the heat radiating from the vessels. The gentle bubbling sound of the water is a constant presence, a soft, hypnotic rhythm that accompanies your work. You then gently drop a handful of stifled cocoons into the heated water. The warmth softens the saracen, allowing the silk filament to loosen from the cocoon's surface. This is where your practiced eye and nimble fingers come into play. You use a small brush or your bare hands, carefully stirring the cocoons in the water, searching for the elusive end of the silk filament. It's a bit like trying to find the end of a roll of invisible thread. The water, slightly cloudy from the dissolved saracen, swirls around your hands. Once you locate the end, you carefully pull it. The filament is incredibly fine, almost invisible against the backdrop of the water. This single thread, however, is often too fine to be reeled on its own, so you gather the filaments from several cocoons, typically between 5 to 10, depending on the desired thickness of the raw silk thread, and twist them together to form a single, stronger strand. This is a crucial step, known as drawing. The combined filaments stick together due to the softened saracen, forming one continuous, coherent thread as they dry. This combined thread is then fed through a small eyelet or guide and attached to a reeling machine. This machine, typically a simple hand-operated reel or a foot-powered wheel, slowly and continuously unwinds the silk. You operate the reel with a steady, rhythmic motion, your hands and feet working in perfect coordination. The sound of the reeling machine is a soft, rhythmic whirring, accompanied by the gentle splash of water as new cocoons are added and old ones are removed. It's a hypnotic sound, indicative of tireless, repetitive labor. One mainstream historical fact is the incredible length of a single silk filament. As mentioned before, one cocoon can yield up to 1,500 meters of usable silk. The ability to unwind such a continuous, unbroken thread was a marvel of ancient technology and patience. It's what differentiated silk from other fibers, which were typically much shorter and had to be spun together from multiple pieces. This long, continuous filament allowed for incredibly smooth, strong, and lustrous fabrics. The work is incredibly tedious and demands absolute concentration. You must constantly monitor the cocoons in the hot water, ensuring new ones are added as others are fully unwound, and that the combined thread remains consistent in thickness. If a thread breaks, you must quickly find the end of the new cocoons and reattach them, seamlessly blending them into the existing strand. Your fingers are constantly in and out of the warm water, becoming soft and wrinkled, the faint scent of saracen clinging to your skin. A quirky tidbit that might surprise you. The water used in the reeling process isn't just plain water. In some ancient methods, a small amount of ash or other natural substances might have been added to the water to help soften the saracen and make the reeling process smoother. These subtle additions were part of the empirical knowledge passed down through generations, refinements that optimized the quality of the reeled silk. It was a secret recipe, not just a simple technique. Relatable pain points include the eye strain from focusing on such fine threads, the repetitive motions that lead to aching muscles, and the constant exposure to heat and humidity. There's no ergonomic seating, no breaks for stretching. You sit for hours, leaning over the reeling basin, your back stiffening, your eyes tired from the intense concentration. The monotony of the task can be mentally exhausting, yet your livelihood depends on your unwavering focus. You also have to contend with the waste. After the silk filament is unwound, what's left is the pupa, usually discarded, and the floss, the tangled outer layers of the cocoon that couldn't be reeled. This waste often has a slightly fishy odor as it cools, a stark contrast to the emerging beauty of the reeled silk. So before this great story continues, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're enjoying our journey together. Your support means the world. Scholarly context highlights the development of increasingly sophisticated reeling machines over time, from simple hand-operated devices to foot-powered contraptions, which significantly increased efficiency and output. Despite their mechanical simplicity by modern standards, these machines were technological marvels of their era, allowing for the consistent production of high-quality raw silk. Historians still argue whether some of these early machines were also capable of twisting the silk thread as it was reeled, further strengthening it for weaving. The reeled silk, now in long, continuous strands, is wound onto spools or frames, forming skeins of raw silk. It gleams softly, a pale, creamy yellow or white, depending on the original cocoons. It feels slightly stiff due to the remaining saracen, but already you can sense its inherent strength and lustrous quality. This is raw silk, ready for the next crucial stages of processing. You carefully handle the finished skeins, feeling the smooth, continuous flow of the thread, a tangible representation of all the painstaking effort that has gone into its creation. You have transformed microscopic filaments into threads of unimaginable length, all by hand, all by careful observation and relentless repetition. It's an ancient magic, born of human endurance and the quiet art of the silkworm. This is where history truly begins to whisper to you. You are surrounded by skeins of raw silk, delicate bundles of continuous thread, each one gleaming faintly in the ambient light. They still feel a little stiff, almost brittle to the touch, due to the sticky layer of saracen that coats each filament. The air in your workspace has shifted again, carrying less of the humid scent of reeling water and more of a dry, almost dusty aroma from the accumulated raw silk. Your next task is to transform this raw material from its natural, slightly rough state into the incredibly soft, lustrous fiber that defines finished silk. This process is known as degumming. Degumming is essential because the saracen, while crucial for binding the filaments during reeling, makes the silk stiff, dull, and unsuitable for dyeing or fine weaving. It's a bit like removing the protective shell from a nut to get to the delicious kernel inside. The goal is to remove the saracen without damaging the underlying fibrin, the core protein that gives silk its strength and sheen. You begin by placing the skeins of raw silk into large vessels filled with a mixture of hot water and a degumming agent. In ancient China, this agent was typically a natural alkali, such as soap made from plant ashes, or simply very soft water. The water needs to be carefully heated, perhaps over a gentle fire, maintaining a consistent, simmering temperature. The subtle sound of the water begins to fill the space once more, a soft, soothing murmur. As the silk steeps, the hot water and alkaline agent work together to dissolve the saracen. You gently agitate the silk, ensuring that the water penetrates every fiber. The water gradually becomes cloudy and thick with the dissolved gum, taking on a slightly yellowish or brownish hue. The smell in the room evolves, becoming subtly richer, perhaps a little more earthy, as the saracen is released. It's a chemical transformation, though not understood in scientific terms at the time, that you intuitively master through observation and practice. The timing of this process is critical. Too long, and the silk can lose its strength and luster. Too short, and not all the saracen will be removed, leaving the silk stiff. You learn to judge by feel, by sight, by the subtle changes in the water. You reach into the warm water, carefully feeling the texture of the silk. As the saracen dissolves, the silk gradually loses its stiffness and becomes incredibly soft and pliable, almost slippery to the touch. This transformation is remarkable. The drab, stiff raw silk emerges as a soft, brilliant fiber, ready for its next life. Once the degumming is complete, the silk is thoroughly rinsed, often multiple times, in clean, fresh water. You might carry bucket after bucket of water, feeling the cool splash on your hands as you plunge the silk in, washing away all traces of the dissolved gum and alkaline solution. The water, initially cloudy, runs clear. The feel of the degummed silk, now smooth and exquisitely soft, is a stark contrast to its previous state. It shimmers with a natural, pearlescent luster, its true beauty now revealed. One quirky tidbit about degumming is that it can result in a significant weight loss for the silk. Saracen accounts for 20 to 30% of the total weight of raw silk. This means that after degumming, your precious silk will weigh considerably less, a factor you must account for in your calculations and planning. It's a necessary sacrifice for quality, a step that strips away the impurity to reveal the true essence of the fiber. Imagine buying something by weight and then losing a quarter of it in processing. A hard pill to swallow, perhaps, but vital for the end product. Relatable pain points in this stage include the repetitive handling of hot, wet silk, which can be hard on the hands. The sheer volume of rinsing required means a lot of water is used, and it all has to be fetched, carried, and poured. There's no automated washing machine, no easy drainage system. It's all manual labor, demanding patience and physical endurance. The accuracy needed for the correct temperature and steeping time also adds a layer of quiet stress, as a mistake here could permanently damage the silk. Scholarly context often emphasizes that while the degumming process reduces the weight and strength of silk slightly, it significantly increases its softness, sheen, and dyeability, making it suitable for high-quality textiles. The ancient Chinese empirically perfected this balance, understanding the trade-offs involved. We can only speculate about the specific plant ashes or natural materials they used in different regions, but the consistency of the results indicates a well-established and sophisticated set of practices. The development of various types of silk soaps made from vegetable oils and plant alkalis also shows their ingenuity in harnessing natural resources for industrial processes. After thorough rinsing, the silk is carefully dried. It might be hung on bamboo poles or stretched out in a clean, well-ventilated area, away from direct sunlight, which could yellow the delicate fibers. As it dries, the silk retains its newfound softness and luster. The air begins to smell clean and fresh, tinged with the faint, almost imperceptible scent of pure silk. The skeins now drape beautifully, their inherent elegance finally on display. This meticulous degumming process is a testament to the ancient Chinese understanding of textile chemistry, long before the advent of modern science. It transforms a raw, functional material into a luxurious, exquisite fiber, ready to absorb vibrant colors and be woven into magnificent fabrics. This commitment to perfection at every stage, despite the labor involved, highlights the deep value placed on silk. It's not just about making a product, it's about crafting beauty, a silent, shimmering reflection of human resilience and ingenuity, guarded for millennia. The journey from humble worm to lustrous fiber is almost complete, and the next step is to imbue it with the hues of the earth. The degummed silk, now exquisitely soft and shimmering with a natural pearlescence, hangs in skeins, waiting. The air around you is clean and faintly sweet, the lingering scent of sarrasin replaced by the pure, unadorned fragrance of silk fiber. Now, the stage is set for one of the most visually stunning parts of the process: dyeing. This is where the pale, creamy silk is imbued with the vibrant, enduring colors that made Chinese silk famous throughout the ancient world. You are about to become an artist, using nature's palette to transform the white canvas of silk. The choice of dye materials in ancient China was extensive, relying entirely on natural sources. You work with a rich array of plant-based dyes derived from roots, barks, leaves, flowers, and even fruits. Imagine the earthy, pungent aroma of indigo leaves, promising deep blues, or the sweet, floral scent of madder root, hinting at fiery reds. There are also animal-based dyes, like cochineal, though more prominent later and from other regions, or mollusk-derived purples, though these were rare and incredibly expensive. The preparation of these dyes is a meticulous process in itself, often involving crushing, boiling, fermenting, and filtering the raw materials to extract their pure color. Your hands might be stained with the rich hues of past dye batches, a testament to your craft. You prepare large vats for the dye baths, often made of wood or ceramic. The water must be of a specific purity and temperature. As you heat the water, you add the prepared dye extracts, carefully mixing them to achieve the desired concentration. The smell of the simmering dye solution fills the air, a complex blend of earthy, floral, and sometimes slightly bitter notes, depending on the plant used. The deep, rich color of the dye bath itself is mesmerizing, a prelude to the beauty that will soon emerge. A crucial element in ancient dyeing was the use of mordants. Mordants are substances, often metallic salts, that help the dye adhere permanently to the fabric, making the colors vibrant and wash fast. Without them, the colors would simply fade or wash out. Common mordants included alum, iron salts, and even stale urine, which contains ammonia. You meticulously add these mordants to the dye bath, understanding their chemical role without necessarily grasping the underlying scientific principles. You learn through generations of trial and error which mordants work best with which dyes to achieve the desired shade and permanence. The water in the dye vat might shimmer subtly as the mordants dissolve, a hint of the chemical magic at play. Once the dye bath is ready, you carefully immerse the skeins of degummed silk. The silk, with its opened-up fibers after degumming, readily absorbs the dye solution. You use long wooden poles or sticks to gently agitate the silk in the vat, ensuring even dye penetration. The sight of the pale silk slowly transforming, absorbing the vibrant color, is truly captivating. What was once white begins to blush with crimson, deepen into sapphire, or glow with emerald green. The sounds are simple: the gentle slosh of the silk in the liquid, the soft hiss of the fire beneath the vat, perhaps your own quiet humming. One mainstream historical fact is the incredible range and fastness of colors achieved by ancient Chinese dyers. They developed sophisticated techniques for creating not just primary colors, but a vast spectrum of shades and tones, many of which remain vibrant even after thousands of years. Their mastery of natural dyes and mordants was unparalleled, allowing them to create textiles that were truly works of art, highly prized for their beauty and durability of color. This wasn't simply dipping fabric in colored water. It was a highly advanced form of ancient chemistry. A quirky tidbit that demonstrates their ingenuity. Achieving truly dark and fast black was particularly challenging. One common method involved multiple dye baths, often starting with a dark blue from indigo, and then overdying with a strong red or brown from madder or various barks. Sometimes, iron-rich mud or solutions were used as mordants or as part of the dye bath to achieve deep, rich blacks. This layered approach shows a profound understanding of color interaction and chemical reactions, even without formal scientific theory. It was a complex and iterative process, often requiring great patience and multiple steps to achieve the desired depth. Relatable pain points during this stage include the intense heat from the dye vats, especially during warmer months. The constant stirring and handling of hot, wet silk can be physically demanding. The fumes from some dye materials or mordants can also be strong and irritating, stinging your eyes or catching in your throat. And of course, there's the ever-present risk of uneven dyeing or streaking, which would devalue the entire batch of silk. Precision and consistency are paramount, requiring unwavering focus. There's no machine to guarantee an even application of color. Scholarly context often discusses the regional variations in dyeing techniques and the specific natural resources available. For example, some regions might have specialized in indigo for blues, while others excelled in madder for reds, or various barks for browns and yellows. This localized expertise contributed to the richness and diversity of Chinese silk. We can only speculate about the informal recipes they followed, passed down orally and through practice, rather than written down. The complexity of these processes underscores the advanced technological capabilities of ancient China in textile production. After dyeing, the silk is thoroughly rinsed again in clean water to remove any excess dye and mordant. You watch the water run clear, a sign that the color has set permanently. The feeling of the freshly dyed silk is still incredibly soft, but now it carries a new weight, a vibrant visual presence. It's then carefully dried, often in the shade, to prevent fading from direct sunlight. As it dries, the colors deepen and become even more radiant, glowing with an inner light that only silk possesses. The room is now a tapestry of suspended colors, brilliant reds next to deep blues, sunny yellows beside rich greens, a testament to your mastery of nature's palette. This is where history truly meets slumber, as you drift deeper into the story. The degummed, vibrantly dyed silk now rests in lustrous skeins, its colors rich and inviting. The air in your dedicated weaving space, which might be a bustling workshop or simply a quiet corner of your home, hums with a different energy. It's no longer the quiet anticipation of hatching eggs, nor the humid warmth of reeling or dyeing. Now, it carries the dry, clean scent of pure silk fiber, occasionally mingled with the faint, woody aroma of the loom itself. This is where countless individual threads are transformed into a cohesive, elegant fabric, the stage of weaving. Before weaving can begin, the reeled and dyed silk threads must be prepared. This involves winding them onto bobbins and preparing the warp and weft threads. The warp threads, which run lengthwise on the loom, must be incredibly strong and precisely sectioned, the spaced. The weft threads, which are woven over and under the warp, can be thicker or of a different color to create patterns. You meticulously wind the threads, ensuring there are no tangles or snags, feeling the smooth, cool dyed silk, now radiant with color, hangs suspended, a vibrant testament to the mastery of natural pigments. The air in your workspace is now dry and carries the clean, subtle scent of pure silk, infused with the faint, lingering aroma of the natural dyes. Your hands, perhaps still faintly stained with indigo or madder, our silk slide through your fingers. The process is repetitive, requiring immense patience and precision. You then dress the loom, a painstaking process of setting up the hundreds, sometimes thousands, of warp threads. Each thread must be individually passed through heddles, which are part of the loom's mechanism that raises and lowers specific sets of warp threads, creating the shed, the opening through which the weft thread passes, the sheer number of threads involved and ready for the next ancient craft, weaving. This is where the individual threads, painstakingly cultivated and colored, are brought together to form the continuous, shimmering fabric that defines silk. You approach the loom, a sturdy, often wooden structure that dominates a significant portion of your workspace. Ancient Chinese looms varied in complexity, from simple backstrap looms for narrow bands to more elaborate horizontal or vertical treadle looms capable of producing wider, more intricate fabrics. The one before you is likely a horizontal loom. The precision required to set them up correctly is a testament to the skill of ancient weavers. A single mistake could ruin an entire length of fabric. The sound of the threads being pulled taut, a soft, almost musical twang, is part of this, where the warp threads, the lengthwise threads that form the foundation of the fabric, are stretched taut. You meticulously thread these warp threads, often hundreds or even thousands of them, through various heddles and reeds. This process, called war preparatory ritual, the loom itself is a remarkable piece of ancient technology. In China, vertical and horizontal looms were used, often incredibly complex, especially for patterned silks. You might be operating a horizontal loom, sitting before it, your feet onping, is incredibly time-consuming and requires immense patience and precision. Each thread must be perfectly aligned, perfectly tensioned. The rhythmic click of the heddles as you prepare them is a quiet, meditative sound. Once the warp threads are set, treadles that control the heddles, your hands working the shuttle. The loom is primarily made of wood, its joints perhaps creaking softly with age and use, carrying the silent history of countless yards of fabric woven before. The act of weaving is you begin the actual weaving. This involves passing the weft thread, the crosswise thread that interlaces with the warp, back and forth. On a treadle loom, you operate foot pedals to raise and lower different sets of warp threads, a rhythmic dance between your hands, feet, and the loom. You press a treadle, a set of warp threads lifts, creating the shed. You then pass the shuttle, containing the weft thread, through this opening with a smooth, creating an opening called the shed. Through this shed, you pass the shuttle, a boat-shaped tool carrying the bobbin of weft thread. With each pass of the shuttle, you beat the newly laid weft thread firmly into place with a reed, swift motion. The shuttle, often made of wood, feels light and balanced in your hand. Then you press another treadle, closing the first shed and opening a new one, before batting the newly inserted weft thread tightly against compacting the weave. The sound of weaving is a rhythmic symphony of soft clicks, gentle thuds, and the continuous whisper of silk threads against wood. It's a rhythmic, almost meditative process. Click of the heddles, the previous one using the reed or beater. This rhythmic thwack-thwack of the beater against the warp threads is the quintessential sound of weaving, a constant, soothing pulse that marks the progress of the fabric. Swish of the shuttle through the shed, thud of the reed compacting the fabric. This repetitive motion, maintained for hours on end, can lull you into a state of deep concentration. Your body sways with the rhythm. One mainstream historical fact is the incredible complexity of patterned silks woven in ancient China. particularly the famous Han and Tang dynasty silks. These were not simple plain weaves. They often featured intricate brocade and damask patterns, requiring looms with multiple heddles and of the loom, your hands moving with practiced efficiency. One mainstream historical fact is the incredible sophistication of ancient Chinese weaving techniques. They mastered complex weaves like twill, satin, and various jacquard-like patterns long before such techniques were known. A highly skilled weaver, often working with an assistant who helped lift specific warp threads according to a pattern. This level of technical sophistication was centuries ahead of many other civilizations and allowed for the creation of fabrics of unparalleled beauty and artistry. It's a testament to there in the West. The draw loom, for instance, a remarkably complex piece of machinery, allowed for the creation of intricate, repeating patterns by manually raising specific warp threads according to a predetermined design. This level of complexity meant that weaving could be a highly engineering prowess without the aid of modern computing. A quirky tidbit is the role of the drawb in highly complex patterned weaving. On larger, more intricate looms, a young assistant, often a boy, would sit atop the loom and manually pull specialized and laborious craft, often requiring the collaboration of a master weaver and an apprentice or drawbu to operate the pattern mechanism. The fabrics they produced were not merely plain cloth, but intricate tapestries of design and color. A quirky tid cords that raised specific groups of warp threads according to a preset pattern, as dictated by the master weaver. This human element, the silent communication and precise coordination between weaver and drawber, was essential for creating the elaborate motifs that characterize it. The density of silk fabric was a mark of its quality and value. Fine silks could have extraordinarily high thread counts, meaning hundreds of threads per inch. Imagine the precision required to weave such a dense fabric, thread by thread, past some of the most famous Chinese silks. Imagine the boredom, the discipline, the sheer repetitive strain of being that drawber, ensuring perfect execution of the pattern, hour after hour. Relatable pain points during weaving include the repetitive strain on your hands by pass. This was not a quick process. Weaving a single bolt of high-quality silk fabric could take weeks or even months, depending on its complexity and length. There was no mass production line, just individual artisans working diligently. Feet and back from sitting in the same position for extended periods, making the same motions over and over. Your eyes must constantly monitor the tension of the threads and the precision of the weave, leading to eye fatigue. The constant couldn't just click a button and have fabric appear. You had to earn every inch. Relatable pain points during weaving include eye strain from focusing on the intricate patterns and fine threads, especially in dim light. The repetitive motions can lead to aching joints. Thwack of the beater can become monotonous, yet losing focus could lead to errors in the pattern or flaws in the fabric. There are no coffee breaks or stretch sessions built into this routine. It's in and muscles, particularly in your back, arms, and legs. Prolonged sitting at the loom can also cause stiffness and discomfort. The air might be dusty with fine silk fibers, and the constant attention required means little room for distraction or error endurance marathon, day after day. Scholarly context often describes the jacquard-like systems that emerged in ancient China long before jacquard's loom in Europe. These complex draw looms, operated by multiple people, allowed for the automatic. A misplaced thread or an uneven beat could mar the pattern and ruin a significant portion of the fabric. You couldn't just cut and paste a correction. You had to unpick and redo sections, a frustrating and time-consuming process. Creation of intricate patterns, showcasing a remarkable level of innovation in textile technology. While not fully automated, they represented a significant step towards mechanical programming, demonstrating the sophisticated problem-solving abilities of ancient engineers and artisans. The level of detail and precision that scholarly context often discusses the social organization of weaving, which ranged from individual household production for self-sufficiency to larger workshops overseen by skilled masters. The knowledge of complex patterns was often a closely guarded family secret, passed down through generations. That could be achieved was astonishing, far beyond what simple hand weaving could accomplish. As the days turn into weeks, you watch the fabric slowly grow, inch by painstaking inch, emerging from the warp and weft threads. The finished fabric is a marvel of texture and color, its surface shimmering with the characteristic luster of silk. You run your hand over it, feeling its incredible softness, its smooth drape. The patterns you've woven, whether simple checks or intricate dragons and phoenix evolution of loom technology, from simple frames to multi-harness draw looms, represents a continuous innovation driven by the demand for increasingly elaborate and valuable silk textiles. We can only speculate on the true extent of the division of labor within these workshops, but the complexity of some designs suggests a collaborative effort. As the fabric slowly grows on the loom, you watch the pattern emerge, thread by thread, color by color. The sheen of the silk is mesmerizing, shifting with the light, creating a dynamics, begin to reveal themselves fully, a testament to your skill and the meticulous preparation that came before. The act of weaving is a profound expression of human resilience and ingenuity. It transforms loose threads into a unified whole, a beautiful, durable testament surface that feels alive. You can feel the increasing weight and texture of the fabric as it rolls onto the take-up beam. The fabric has an inherent strength, yet feels incredibly soft against your skin, a testament to the quality of the silk and the skill to countless hours of focused labor. You are not just making fabric, you are creating a masterpiece, a wearable work of art that will be highly coveted and passed down through generations. This is the tangible result of the guarded secret, the soft whispering of your hands. The finished fabric emerges from the loom, a shimmering masterpiece of human ingenuity and insect labor. It's not just a piece of cloth, it's a testament to patience, precision, and the preservation of ancient voice of history woven into every thread. The finished piece, still attached to the loom, is a moment of quiet pride before the final, critical steps that transform it from cloth into true luxury. The woven fabric, a masterpiece of intricate patterns and vibrant colors, now hangs from the loom, its shimmering surface a testament to your tireless efforts. But the journey from silkworm to luxury garment isn't quite finished. The fabric, while beautiful, still needs final touches to achieve its ultimate drape, luster, and longevity. This stage involves a series of meticulous finishing processes: washing, stretching, softening, and sometimes polishing or calendaring. The air in your finishing area might carry a faint, clean scent of fresh water mixed with the subtle, sweet aroma of the silk itself, a pleasant contrast to the previous stages. First, the newly woven silk fabric is carefully removed from the loom. You handle it with the utmost care, feeling its substantial yet incredibly soft weight. It might still be slightly stiff from the weaving process, and perhaps hold a trace of loom dust or sizing agents used during preparation. The fabric then undergoes a thorough washing. This isn't just a simple rinse. It's a careful cleansing to remove any remaining impurities, loose fibers, or residual dyes. You immerse the silk in clean, often lukewarm water, sometimes with a very mild natural soap or ash solution. You gently agitate the fabric, allowing the water to penetrate every fiber. The sound of the silk swishing through the water is soft and rhythmic, a cleansing murmur. The water might become slightly cloudy at first, but you continue rinsing until it runs completely clear, ensuring the fabric is pristine. The feeling of the wet silk, heavy and cool against your hands, is remarkably smooth. After washing, the silk is carefully stretched. This process helps to correct any distortions that might have occurred during weaving and ensures the fabric has a uniform width and even drape. You might use wooden frames or tenterhooks to gently pull the fabric taut, allowing it to dry under tension. This stretching helps to enhance the fabric's natural sheen and prevents shrinking or warping in the future. Imagine a canvas being perfectly stretched before painting. The same principle applies here, ensuring the final piece is flawless. The slight tension on the fabric as it dries gives it a taut, almost musical quality if brushed. One mainstream historical fact is the long-held tradition of highly skilled finishing techniques in ancient China. Unlike some coarser fabrics, silk's inherent properties demanded meticulous handling at every stage. The careful stretching, drying, and softening were critical for achieving the renowned drape and hand feel of Chinese silk. This attention to detail ensured that the finished product was not just strong and colorful, but also incredibly luxurious and comfortable against the skin. They understood that the sensory experience of silk was as important as its visual appeal. A quirky tidbit: while not always done, some ancient silks might have undergone a process similar to calendaring, which involves passing the fabric between smooth rollers, often heated, to impart an even greater luster and smoothness to the surface. This would have been done manually, using smooth stones or heavy wooden rollers, further enhancing the silk's already impressive shine. Imagine the effort of moving heavy rollers over yards of fabric, all to achieve that perfect, almost liquid sheen. It was a painstaking pursuit of perfection. Relatable pain points in this stage include the physical labor of repeated washing and rinsing, especially for large pieces of fabric. The precise stretching and handling require careful movements to avoid tearing or distorting the delicate silk. And of course, the ever-present anxiety of drying the fabric without blemishes. Direct sunlight could cause fading or yellowing, while uneven drying could lead to stiffness or mildew. You must find the perfect balance of ventilation and shade, often hanging the silk indoors or under specific awnings, away from harsh elements. There's no tumble dryer here, just patient waiting and careful monitoring. Scholarly context often emphasizes that the finishing processes were as crucial to the final quality of the silk as the weaving itself. The meticulous post-weaving treatments distinguished high-quality silk from inferior products, contributing to its value and desirability. We can only speculate about the specific recipes for natural softeners or finishes that might have been applied to enhance the silk's feel, but the results speak for themselves. The enduring softness and drape of ancient silk fragments found in archaeological sites attest to the effectiveness of these historical methods. Finally, the fabric is often softened. While degumming removed most of the stiffness, a final manual softening might be performed. This could involve gently kneading, beating, or rolling the dry silk fabric to break down any remaining stiffness in the fibers, further enhancing its beautiful drape. Your hands, accustomed to the delicate nature of silk, gently work the fabric, feeling it become even more yielding and flowing under your touch. The finished silk has an almost ethereal quality, its lightness and smoothness unparalleled. As you run your hands over the finished silk, feeling its exquisite softness and admiring its vibrant colors and intricate patterns, a profound sense of accomplishment washes over you. You have taken humble leaves, tiny worms, and raw threads, and through weeks and months of unwavering dedication, precise skill, and profound patience, you have transformed them into a fabric that is the envy of the world. This shimmering textile, ready now to be fashioned into robes, banners, or other symbols of wealth and power, is the tangible manifestation of the ancient Chinese secret. It's a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and the quiet, persistent pursuit of perfection. The beauty of this fabric is not just in its appearance, but in the countless hidden hours of labor and secret knowledge woven into every single thread. The exquisite, finished silk fabric, soft, lustrous, and vibrant with color, now represents the culmination of immense labor and ancient ingenuity. But beyond its undeniable beauty and tactile luxury, this fabric carried an even greater weight. It was a closely guarded state secret, the cornerstone of ancient China's economic and political power for millennia. The air surrounding this secret was thick with the silent understanding of severe penalties for its betrayal. You, as part of this intricate system, live under the shadow of this constant vigilance. For thousands of years, from its mythical origins to the dawn of global trade routes, China maintained a near-absolute monopoly on silk production. No other civilization understood the full process, from the cultivation of specific mulberry trees to the precise management of silkworm life cycles, reeling, degumming, dyeing, and weaving. The rest of the world knew silk as an exotic, precious commodity that arrived from the distant East, a shimmering mystery. They coveted it, traded for it with gold and silver, and marveled at its quality, but they had no idea how it was made. The lengths to which the ancient Chinese went to protect this secret were extraordinary and often brutal. The penalties for smuggling silkworm eggs, mulberry seeds, or even the knowledge of sericulture out of the empire were severe, often punishable by death. Imagine a frontier guard meticulously inspecting every traveler, not just for weapons or contraband, but for tiny, almost invisible silkworm eggs hidden in hair, sewn into clothing, or secreted within hollow walking sticks. The vigilance was absolute. You understand that even an unguarded word, a casual mention of the process to an outsider, could lead to dire consequences not just for you, but for your entire family. The threat of torture or execution for revealing this sacred knowledge was very real and widely understood. This rigorous secrecy wasn't just about preserving economic advantage. It was about maintaining an aura of mystique and power. Silk became synonymous with China, a symbol of its advanced civilization and unique capabilities. It reinforced the notion of China as the Middle Kingdom, superior to all others, possessing exclusive knowledge and treasures. The emperors and their courts understood that control over silk meant control over a crucial aspect of global trade and diplomacy. It was a soft power, woven into fabric. One mainstream historical fact that highlights this monopoly is how much the Roman Empire coveted silk. Roman elites spent vast sums of gold to import Chinese silk, leading to significant outflows of wealth that worried Roman statesmen. They knew silk came from a mysterious land in the east, but its origin remained unknown to them. They saw the finished product, admired its beauty, but could not replicate it. This economic dependence gave China immense leverage in its dealings with Western powers. It was a trade imbalance of epic proportions, driven by a single, closely guarded secret, a quirky tidbit that might make you chuckle, despite the serious context. Stories abound of ingenious, albeit perilous, smuggling attempts. One legend speaks of a Chinese princess marrying a king in Central Asia, who reputedly smuggled silkworm eggs and mulberry seeds out of China by concealing them in her elaborate headdress or sewn into the lining of her garments. While this specific tale may be apocryphal, it illustrates the desperate desire of other cultures to acquire the secret and the extraordinary measures people took to try and circumvent the strict Chinese laws. It's a bit like trying to sneak a highly valuable, tiny and live animal through airport security today, except with much higher stakes. Relatable pain points for you, living within this secret society, include the constant underlying tension. You are always aware of who you are speaking to, what you are revealing, even in seemingly innocent conversations. Your life is intertwined with this secret, and you carry the burden of its protection, even if you are just a humble farmer or weaver. There is a sense of collective responsibility, but also individual fear. This pervasive secrecy creates a unique social dynamic where trust is paramount within the community, but suspicion is directed outward. Scholarly context often debates the exact point at which the secret truly escaped China. While the general timeline suggests it was maintained for thousands of years, there were likely small, unauthorized leakages long before the generally accepted 6th century AD accounts. However, these early leaks probably didn't lead to large-scale, sustainable silk production elsewhere, because the complete, intricate system, from mulberry cultivation to proper reeling and weaving, was incredibly difficult to replicate without comprehensive knowledge. The entire ecosystem of sericulture had to be transferred, not just a few eggs. The continuous production of silk, year after year, century after century, was a testament to the effectiveness of China's secrecy apparatus. It was a system built on severe penalties, geographical isolation, and the deep cultural understanding that this knowledge was not merely a commodity, but a core part of their national identity. The silk that draped emperors and adorned temples was not just a symbol of wealth. It was a silent, shimmering guardian of a profound, ancient secret. You understand that your role, however small, is part of this grand, secretive enterprise. Your meticulous work, your adherence to the ancient methods, and your very silence contribute to the maintenance of this unparalleled monopoly. It's a quiet source of pride, knowing that what you help create is unique to your land, an object of desire and wonder across the known world. This deeply ingrained sense of duty, and the immense value placed on the secret knowledge, contributed significantly to the human resilience seen throughout the history of Chinese sericulture. The whisper of silk was also the whisper of a forbidden truth. The shimmering silk, now fully processed, dyed, and woven, transcended its identity as mere fabric. It was wealth, currency, and a potent symbol of status and power throughout ancient China and beyond. The air in the imperial capital, or in a bustling trade city, often carried the faint, luxurious scent of fine silk, mingled with the earthy smells of markets and the distant aroma of incense. You, as a part of the silk production chain, understand its profound impact on your society. Within China, silk was far more than just clothing. It served as a form of currency, used to pay taxes, tributes, and even as salaries for officials. Imagine being paid not in coins, but in lengths of beautifully woven silk fabric, a truly tangible and valuable form of remuneration. This widespread use as a medium of exchange speaks volumes about its inherent value and universal acceptance. There was no argument over its worth, no fluctuating stock market to worry about. Its value was constant, universally recognized, and deeply ingrained in the economy. Social status was visibly marked by silk. Only the elite emperors, nobles, high-ranking officials, and wealthy merchants could afford to wear it regularly. Laws sometimes dictated who could wear certain colors or patterns of silk, further reinforcing its role as a marker of rank. You would see commoners dressed in coarser fabrics like hemp or cotton, while the privileged few glided by in robes of lustrous silk, their movements accompanied by the soft rustle of the luxurious material. To wear silk was to display your position in society, a silent declaration of power and privilege. It was a bit like driving a luxury vehicle or wearing designer clothes today, but with far more profound social implications. Silk also played a vital role in diplomacy and tribute. Chinese emperors bestowed lavish silk gifts upon foreign dignitaries and neighboring rulers, a gesture that simultaneously showcased China's wealth and technological superiority. These gifts were not just tokens, they were instruments of foreign policy, establishing alliances, asserting dominance, or pacifying potential rivals. Receiving Chinese silk was an honor, a recognition of status, and a tangible link to the mighty empire. You might occasionally hear stories of these grand exchanges, whispers of the awe-foreign envoys expressed when presented with these shimmering treasures. One mainstream historical fact that underscores silk's importance: the famed Silk Road, a vast network of trade routes connecting East and West, was named after this single commodity. While many goods traveled along these routes, silk was the primary driver, the most coveted item that spurred the extensive exchange between diverse cultures. Caravans laden with bolts of silk traversed deserts, mountains, and vast plains, braving incredible dangers to bring this precious fabric to eager markets in Central Asia, the Middle East, and eventually Europe. The very existence of this legendary trade network was a testament to silk's irresistible allure, a quirky tidbit that demonstrates silk's versatility and value. Beyond clothing and currency, silk was also used for writing. Before the widespread use of paper, especially for important documents, maps, and even early paintings, silk fabric served as a durable and luxurious medium. Imagine official decrees or artistic masterpieces meticulously brushed onto a smooth, shimmering silk canvas. This added another layer to its value and cemented its place in both practical and artistic aspects of Chinese society. It shows how deeply integrated this fabric was into the very fabric of their culture. Relatable pain points when considering this system include the vast economic inequality it represented. While you, the producer, toiled for months to create silk, its immense value meant that only a tiny fraction of society could afford to wear it. The wealth generated by silk trade flowed largely to the imperial court and powerful merchants, leaving the laborers with only a subsistence living. There's no fair trade movement here, no ethical sourcing labels. The beauty of the fabric often masked the arduous labor and social stratification upon which its production was built. Scholarly context often highlights the economic impact of silk on the Chinese imperial treasury. The control over silk production and trade allowed emperors to accumulate vast wealth, which funded lavish courts, ambitious infrastructure projects like the Great Wall, and powerful armies. This wealth also fueled internal economic development, as artisans and merchants thrived on the demand for silk-related products. We can only speculate about the true scale of the imperial workshops and the logistical challenges of managing such a vast, secretive, and profitable industry. But the historical records point to an enterprise of enormous scope and complexity. The consistent demand for silk across continents, its role in defining social status, its function as a form of currency, and its instrumental use in diplomacy all underscore its unparalleled significance. This delicate fabric, born from the humble silkworm, became a powerful engine of civilization, shaping economies, influencing politics, and embodying the aspirations of an entire empire. As you reflect on the journey of silk, from its hidden origins in the mulberry groves to its grand display in imperial courts and distant markets, you appreciate the profound human resilience involved. It wasn't just about making a fabric. It was about building a society, sustaining an empire, and projecting an image of unparalleled sophistication to the world. The soft whisper of silk carried the resounding echoes of power, influence, and a deeply guarded secret that defined an era. For millennia, the secret of silk production remained China's exclusive treasure, a silent testament to its ingenuity and the severity of its protective measures. But no secret, however guarded, can remain perfectly contained forever. The relentless desire of the outside world to replicate this prized fabric eventually led to its slow, fascinating, and often clandestine escape. The air, once heavy with the weight of absolute secrecy, now carries a faint, new breath of global expansion, a subtle shift in the winds of trade and knowledge. The initial leakages of silk knowledge were likely unintentional or small-scale. Perhaps individual silkworm eggs or mulberry seeds smuggled out by intrepid travelers or opportunistic merchants, without leading to widespread, sustainable production elsewhere. The challenge wasn't just acquiring the raw materials. It was replicating the entire, intricate ecosystem of sericulture, from the specific mulberry varieties to the complex rearing, reeling, and weaving techniques. It was a holistic knowledge system, not a simple isolated item. One of the most famous, though possibly apocryphal, tales of the secret's escape centers on a Chinese princess in the early 5th century AD. According to the Byzantine historian Procopius, this princess, betrothed to a king in Khotan, a kingdom in Central Asia, defied the imperial decree by secretly smuggling silkworm eggs and mulberry seeds out of China, by concealing them within her elaborate headdress, possibly woven into her hair or tucked inside a hollow part of it. This act of love or defiance, if true, provided Khotan with the means to begin its own silk production, marking one of the earliest documented instances of the secret spreading westward. The very idea of such a delicate, biological secret being carried across borders in a bridal coiffure is both romantic and incredibly risky. You can almost feel the tension, the beating heart of the princess as she made her journey. A more historically plausible and impactful account involves two Persian monks who, around the 6th century AD, are said to have smuggled silkworm eggs out of China for the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. These monks, having spent time in China, understood the value of the secret. They reportedly concealed the precious eggs within hollow bamboo canes, presenting them to the emperor in Constantinople. This strategic acquisition of silkworms and knowledge was a deliberate act of industrial espionage, allowing the Byzantine Empire to establish its own silk industry. This event is often considered the definitive moment when the secret of sericulture permanently left China, leading to significant changes in global trade dynamics. Imagine the monks walking for months, knowing that their fragile cargo could easily perish or be discovered, leading to swift, brutal punishment. The air around them must have hummed with silent tension. A quirky tidbit: the monks' success wasn't merely due to smuggling the eggs. They likely also brought back crucial knowledge about mulberry cultivation and silkworm rearing, possibly even rudimentary reeling techniques. Without this holistic understanding, the eggs alone would have been useless. This highlights that the secret was a complex system of agricultural, biological, and mechanical knowledge, not just a single physical item. It's like stealing a car but not knowing how to drive or where to get fuel. You need the whole operational manual. Relatable pain points during this period of transition for the Chinese included the frustration and perhaps a sense of betrayal as their monopoly slowly eroded. For those outside China, establishing a new silk industry was incredibly challenging. They faced issues with climate, finding suitable mulberry varieties, learning the intricate details of silkworm care, and developing the necessary infrastructure for reeling and weaving. It would have been years, perhaps centuries, before they could produce silk comparable in quality or quantity to China's. This meant immense initial investment, countless failures, and slow, painstaking progress. There was no instant success story, no overnight replication of a thousand-year-old industry. Scholarly context often emphasizes the gradual nature of silk's spread. While the Byzantine Empire gained the secret in the 6th century, it took centuries for silk production to firmly establish itself across the Mediterranean and then into Europe. Islamic regions, particularly Persia and Central Asia, also developed significant silk industries, often incorporating and refining Chinese techniques. The Silk Road, ironically, eventually became a two-way street for silk, as Chinese silk continued to be traded, but now also competed with silks produced in other regions. This diffusion of knowledge, though slow, eventually transformed the global textile landscape. Historians continue to trace the specific routes and methods through which silk knowledge spread, revealing a complex web of cultural exchange and technological transfer. The spread of silk production marked a significant shift in global power dynamics. No longer was China the sole provider of this coveted luxury. While Chinese silk often retained its reputation for superior quality, competition emerged, and the global supply increased, making silk more accessible to a wider range of consumers in various empires. This decentralization of silk production contributed to the eventual decline of the Silk Road's singular importance, as maritime routes grew in prominence. Despite the secret's eventual escape, China's mastery of sericulture remained unparalleled for a very long time. Its silks continued to set the standard for quality, innovation, and artistry. The legacy of their millennia-long monopoly left an indelible mark on their economy, culture, and interactions with the rest of the world. You, as a part of this ancient lineage, understand that even when a secret is shared, the initial brilliance and the long history of perfecting that knowledge remain unique. The whisper of silk, once exclusive, now began to echo across continents, carried by the very threads it produced. The mystery was slowly unraveling, thread by painstaking thread, but the story of its origin would forever belong to your land. The ancient secret, once locked away behind formidable mountain ranges and even more formidable imperial decrees, eventually slipped its bonds. Yet, even as the knowledge of sericulture spread across continents, The enduring whisper of silk continued to emanate from its original home, forever linked to the ingenuity and unwavering patience of ancient China. The air now in your space carries only the faint memory of these ancient processes, a ghost of mulberry and simmering dye, replaced by the mundane sense of your modern life. But the legacy of silk is more than just a historical footnote. It's a profound connection to the past, a silent testament to human resilience and the relentless pursuit of beauty and utility. Even today, thousands of years after its initial discovery, silk remains a highly coveted fabric, known for its unparalleled softness, strength, and exquisite luster. You can find it in luxurious garments, delicate scarves, and even high-tech applications. A journey from humble worm to space-age material. Consider for a moment the profound impact of this one domesticated insect. The Bomix mari, the humble silkworm, stands as one of the most remarkable examples of human-driven evolution. For millennia, ancient Chinese sericulturists meticulously selected and bred these worms, guiding them from their wild origins to become the highly specialized creatures they are today. Unable to fly, utterly dependent on human care, and optimized for producing a single, continuous, valuable thread. This wasn't just farming. It was an early form of genetic engineering, a slow, deliberate sculpting of nature for human benefit. You probably don't think about biological domestication when you slip into a silk pillowcase, do you? Yet that pillowcase represents a living history of ancient, meticulous breeding. The journey of silk, from the painstaking cultivation of mulberry trees, their leaves carefully tended and harvested, to the delicate hatching and voracious feeding of millions of silkworms, was a continuous cycle of unyielding labor. You remember the constant rustle of tiny jaws, the ever-present scent of mulberry leaves and frass, the relentless vigilance against disease. Then came the miracle of the cocoon, the silent, concentrated spinning of a single, continuous filament, followed by the tedious reeling of that thread from the hot water, your fingers constantly seeking the elusive end. The process demanded unwavering patience, a quality often in short supply in our fast-paced modern world. Imagine trying to sit there for hours, performing the same delicate motion, without the distraction of a glowing screen or the promise of instant gratification. You simply wouldn't last a day. Then came the alchemy of degumming, transforming stiff raw silk into soft, supple fibers, followed by the artistry of dyeing, imbuing the threads with the rich, vibrant colors extracted from nature's own palette. And finally, the rhythmic dance of weaving, where countless individual threads were painstakingly interlaced on complex looms, creating patterns that were themselves masterpieces of design and engineering. Every stage required an intimate knowledge of materials, an intuitive understanding of chemistry, and a profound respect for the natural world. They didn't have laboratories or textbooks. Their knowledge was embodied, passed down through the muscle memory of generations, whispered from parent to child. A mainstream historical fact that often gets overlooked is just how much innovation sprang from the demand for silk. The development of complex looms, some of which predated European breakthroughs by centuries, the sophisticated methods of dyeing for color fastness, and even early forms of controlled environments for the silkworms, all represent ancient technological achievements driven by the desire for this single fabric. Historians still argue about the precise mechanisms of some of the most intricate draw looms, but the evidence of their output speaks for itself. Relatable pain points for us today, in contrast to their ancient struggles, often center on our lack of appreciation for the origins of our comforts. We click a button, and a silk garment arrives at our door, its price tag perhaps the only connection to its complex origin. We rarely consider the sheer number of living creatures, the vast quantities of leaves, the hours of human labor, and the deep, inherited knowledge required to bring it into existence. There's no Yelp review for the quality of the mulberry leaves, no social media post highlighting the back-breaking work of reeling. The effort is largely invisible to us, smoothed over by modern convenience. This invisible labor, however, is the true legacy. The resilience of the ancient Chinese people in maintaining this secret for so long, and in perfecting such an intricate industrial process, is truly astounding. They built an empire, funded wars, and established vast trade networks, all on the back of a small, delicate insect and the cultivation of a specific tree. This wasn't merely about survival. It was about thriving, about creating a culture of excellence and a symbol of power that transcended borders and centuries. Their ability to observe, adapt, and patiently cultivate both the natural world and their own knowledge systems is a profound testament to human ingenuity. And even now, the inherent qualities of silk continue to impress. Its softness, its breathability, its natural sheen, its strength relative to its weight. These are properties that modern science still strives to replicate in synthetic materials, often without success. Silk remains a benchmark, a gold standard born from a 1,000-year-old secret. The story of how ancient Chinese kept their silk secrets isn't just about a fabric. It's about a way of life, a deep connection to nature, and the incredible human capacity for dedication and innovation. It's a boring history, perhaps, in its slow, meticulous detail, but it's a history that whispers of triumph, of the quiet dignity of labor, and of a secret so profound it shaped the ancient world. Let the gentle echoes of their tireless work, the soft rustle of mulberry leaves, and the rhythmic beat of ancient looms now lull you further into a deeper rest. Where history whispers you to sleep, you are drifting through time. Now, as the story of ancient silk production gently recedes, allow your mind to drift on the currents of time. You've journeyed through weeks of dedicated labor, felt the texture of leaves, smelled the dampness of cocoons, and heard the quiet, persistent sounds of an empire being woven, thread by painstaking thread. Recognize the profound simplicity and incredible complexity that existed side by side in that ancient world. There's a calming rhythm to this meticulous work, a testament to human perseverance long before the era of instant gratification. Let the quiet hum of that distant past, the steady, rhythmic sounds of creation, soothe your busy modern mind. Appreciate the warmth of your covers, the stillness of your room, and the ease with which you access the world's comforts today. This journey was a soft reminder of the vast, unseen efforts that built our world. Imagine the dedication required to pass down such vital, intricate knowledge not through books, but through whispers, through demonstration, through endless hours of shared labor. Feel the quiet peace of knowing that for tonight, your only task is to rest. Let the echoes of ancient ingenuity cradle your thoughts as you sink deeper into a quiet, restorative sleep. The story has completed its cycle, and so should your day.